Hi everybody, my name is Al Navarro, and I have about 20 years experience in the marketing profession, working on brands including Mercedes-Benz, Delta, Hyatt, Domino's Pizza, apologies to the Melon Mushroom. And for the last 8 years we've been working, my company Mint Advertising has been working with Proponent back when they were HLR. We helped them transition from the brand to the Proponent brand, and really it was so exciting last night when I came in. Bill kind of gave me the nighttime tour, with the building all lit up, and I had only seen it in pictures before, and it's really beautiful, and I'm just thankful to be down here to have the opportunity to speak with you guys. Before we get to the panel, I thought it might be helpful a little bit to just have a little introduction to social media. I'm assuming there's a wide range of familiarity in the audience. How many people have a Facebook page? Some, but not the 50% look like about there, not everybody. So I'm going to go cover a few things. I want to start by defining social media. When I put this presentation together, I went to the local Borders and I looked in their business section and saw what books I could read on social media, just so I had an expert point of view on it. And there are about 100 different books there, and I've read or skimmed many of them, so you don't have to read any of them right now. And there's lots of definitions for social media, but here's one that I took from various resources, and I think this is a really good one. Social media is any media that gives the reader, viewer, or listener the opportunity to connect with other reader, viewers, or listeners, and even the author. And in the best cases, and in most cases, social media also allows the reader to become an author or creator themselves. And that part we're going to touch on a little later in the presentation. So what does all this mean? Well, let's take a fairly basic unit of advertising that I'm sure you're all familiar with, and that's a television commercial. So say you make a television commercial and it goes on conventional media. It runs, I'm happen to follow the NBA semifinals, and there's all this advertising, every 8 minutes they put on 3 minutes advertising. So that ad comes on, someone sees that ad, it either registers with me or it doesn't register. It either makes me want to do something or I just ignore it, or it goes up into my database in my head and I can say, okay, Verizon, it stands for these 3 things. Now let's take that same commercial and place it in the context of a Facebook post. The viewer can watch it on his Facebook page, within his Facebook page. He can watch it as many times as he wants to. She can like it. She can share it with her network. She can have an opinion about it. And there's that authorship I was talking about, because I think everyone's got an opinion and everyone likes to comment on other people's opinions. And so if I saw something, a television commercial last night, I did this quite recently, and I said, oh, I don't really love the new Mercedes-Benz commercials, and I happen to be friends with a lot of car people on Facebook, so that set off a bunch of comments on that. So again, every time they comment on it, it's appearing on their page that so-and-so commented on Al Navarro's post, so that's getting more and more people to watch that initial commercial. Mercedes-Benz or whoever it was at the time is getting free advertising. So there are so many ways, again, having scanned all the books, there are so many different platforms for social media. Today, in the interest of time, I'm going to focus on just 4. Social networks, which we talked about, microblogging, and primarily I'm going to talk about Twitter today. And the 2 other ones, I think, are less common. How many people here have gone to YouTube or watched a video on YouTube? Pretty much everybody, right? And you probably think of it as this great video delivery streaming site, but I like you to think of it in a different way. It's a social media platform. And then the last thing I want to talk about are online forums, and we'll get there in a little bit. But before I get into all that stuff, I want to address a concern I hear a lot from even my own clients, and that's social media is too young for my target audience, or social media is not going to connect with my social audience, my audience. I hear that a lot, and for those people, I have 2 words: Newt Gingrich. Now, you're laughing, but at the ripe old age, whether you like this guy or not, at the ripe old age of 68, Newt Gingrich used 3 of the 4 social media platforms that I'm going to talk about today to announce his presidential candidacy. If you haven't been to his page, he used Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and this was the page that was up last week. You could watch a video. Here's that video, and you can share that video or like that video. And note that he's got 100, at the time, this was last week, 132 278 fans. So, and that site is pretty new. His page is pretty new there, so that's pretty good, I think, for him. Another example of just how broad the appeal of social media has become, I think at the risk of offending anybody here who might own a Cadillac, I don't think anyone's going to say Cadillac is a young brand. I think their average age of ownership is in the 50s, the low 50s. But here's Cadillac's Facebook page. I started following Cadillac after I attended a driving event for their CTSV sedan, which is a 550 horsepower, 6-speed. See, I'm a car person. I'm really into that. It's a sedan. It's just as fast as the fastest cars from Mercedes-Benz and BMW. So I started following them, and I thought it was really interesting. One thing, first of all, they have more fans than Newt Gingrich, 364,000 fans. But what I really found interesting about Cadillac is they would post a question that said, "Where are you driving your Cadillac this weekend?" And 900,000 of people would say, "I'm going to be driving, the Pacific Coast Highway. I'm going to be driving up to the Adirondack." I couldn't believe all these people sharing the information. I'm sure they're, 40 to 60 years old on Facebook. And I thought Cadillac, that was just a really nice example of, social media isn't just for the young, it's for everybody. And it's now. It's not tomorrow it's going to be for everybody, it's now. And hopefully, throughout this presentation and the panel, if you guys pick up at 2 or 3 things that you can try and to see that it is now for your business, I think that's all we can really hope for, and that would be a great outcome of this presentation. So, moving on. Before I get to those 4 things, I want to talk about one other plank. Business-to-business social media really is right now kind of the holy grail of social media. It was even covered in a South by Southwest conference panel. So it's really the hot new thing. And in one of those many books that I talked about that I read or skimmed, there was this great quote from literally the author of the Social Media Bible. And he said, "While many insist that B2B is significantly different from B2C, I disagree. There are some subtle differences, but in B2B, the second B is still a C." And that's something I think is really, really important, not just for social media, but for all media. A lot of times, as an advertising agency, we handle both sides. Consumer advertising and business advertising, and a lot of people, but it's different. I'm like, how is it different? The person's still a consumer. They're still having to make a decision based on various points. So